if you need to record anything over the internet, I cannot think of a more seamless.
Well, today, thousands of people turned out for
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Thousands of Yemenis gathered in cities across Yemen participating in the weekly pro-Palestinian rally. The focus this week was condemning the strikes by the UK and the US on Hodeidah city that killed 16 people and injured several others. As tensions ratcheted up in the Red Sea, protesters flooded the streets in Sada, Marib, Rema, Amran, Ib, and Taz in Yemen, chanting slogans against the US and the UK. Yemen's capital of Sana'a also hosted another million-man march on Friday evening, following the escalation. The British and US forces struck the Houthi targets in Yemen for the 5th time in a joint military operation since January. In response, Yemen's Houthis launched a missile attack in the direction of the US aircraft carrier Eisenhower in the Red Sea. The Biden administration, however, denied such an attack taking place.
And in response to these crimes and under the framework of responding the US-British aggression and in continuation to support the Palestinian people, the missile and navy forces in the Yemeni armed forces carried out a joint military operation targeting the American Eisenhower aircraft carrier in the Red Sea.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that the strike on Houthis was conducted in self-defense and were aimed at deterring an ongoing threat posed through the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis have threatened to escalate attacks on the Red Sea shipping lanes after overnight strikes.
In war, the first casualty is always the truth. Welcome back to War Mondays on the Rob Maness Show live on Worldview Tube and X-Space's simulcast. Well, no, folks, the USS Eisenhower aircraft carrier was not destroyed by the terrorists in Yemen this weekend. The plethora of reporting on the so-called successful attack is fake news. However, the situation in the Red Sea continues to be hazardous for commercial and military vessels and U.S. vessels in the Eisenhower battle group that were targeted over this weekend without any damage or casualties, and the Houthi missiles and rockets were easily shot down. But also the continuing war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas is reaching a point where the Israelis are facing even more immense pressure than before the last few months from the U.S. to end hostilities in Rafah without achieving its objectives. Unfortunately, they don't agree with President Biden's proposed peace plan he tried to pass off as Netanyahu's. Well, the war between Ukraine and Russia is escalating due to Western nations led by the U.S. approving the use of their weapons on Russian territory. And the Chinese war games aggressively targeting Taiwan in May a few weeks ago were the largest and most complex to date. Former senior DOD official, retired Army colonel, and author John Mills is back with us today to discuss all this and more. John, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show.
Hey, Rob, thank you. Always an honor to be on the show.
Well, we never run out of things to talk about when it comes to this subject, unfortunately. But first, I got to touch on a little bit of current news, with the verdict against President Trump in the New York State Court, coming back 34 felony counts, guilty over these, really weird ledger entry charges and all the weird testimony, and the judge basically narrowing the entire system down to where this jury really didn't have much wiggle room than to pass convictions of him. What are your thoughts on this whole court process? And what do you think is going to happen? I mean, a lot of people are talking about violence and civil war and those kind of things, which I absolutely disagree with, because we're not there, and I don't think this is going to put us there, but folks are concerned.
Well, they should be, but let's focus on positive things. They want us to overreact, and they want, because they always need a dramatic event so that they can really clamp down and say, see what they're doing. I was looking for the name of the prosecutor. I mean, this whole case stinks from beginning to end. I think Jonathan Turley, I think Alan Dershowitz, I think Judge Jeanine Pirro are all very experienced and learned from a legal and with Jeanine Pirro, a judge's point of view, and they clearly this is a fraud. I can't remember the Biden official's name who departed Department of Justice solely to be Alvin Bragg's lead prosecutor. The name I just had up on on my other screen here, and I can't find it right now. But I mean, that is so clearly collusion between the federal government and county. Alvin Bragg is a county prosecutor. Don't give him everybody goes, oh, New York prosecutor. He's a county prosecutor. Okay, he's a Hick Hayseed county prosecutor. This was clearly a setup. But this is how I remember back in they got Tom DeLay on some obscure county prosecutor in Texas. This is how they're gonna play the game. They're working with local district attorneys at the county level. This is an unlawful collusion of federal and local prosecutors to coordinate the activity. And they say they got him on federal election charges. Well, hold on a second. If this is federal election charges, then this is the improper court to have it in. They can't prosecute federal election crimes. So they're having it all way. Don't get upset. Don't get angry. Get sharp. Get focused and get ready. But we got to get smarter and tougher on these things. They are playing lawfare. And that's the way it's going to be. The nanosecond somebody gets onto the street and gets violent, they're going to use that as a pretext to clamp down.
Yeah, and even if our folks are out there intermixing with other people that they don't know, the other side's very good at setups. And I kind of like President Trump's approach to this whole thing, because I think they are going to try to jail him, and I think that'll be, if something gets triggered that we don't want, that'll be a good opportunity for it. But President Trump's response to Fox and Friends yesterday was, when they asked him if he was worried about jail, he said, "Well, I'm okay with it. That's what's going to happen. I don't want my lawyers begging to not to go to jail. If that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. And I look forward to it, I think," or something like that. That's good leadership right there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to buckle up and get tough on these things here. People want an easy button. There is no easy button. The founding fathers and mothers of this country did not have an easy button to push. Okay. Many had to sacrifice, and ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be everybody wants an easy button. You push it, we have election integrity, and life is beautiful again. That's not we're dealing with relentless busybodies who will not be satisfied with anything, and they're going to try, no matter what, they're going to try something new as an end around. I mean, this is what the Biden team does, and this is what the busybodies in the Biden team does, is they want their way. And it was Biden team was putting words in Netanyahu's mouth, about, oh yeah, they agreed to this. And they released us on Friday, knowing that was during Shabbat. They knew that was a holy period. Nobody was going to respond. And this is typical of the relentless busybodies on the Biden team. They go, yeah, they agreed to it. Oh yeah. They have no problem putting words in other people's mouths. They have no problem stealing the country. So we got to get smart here, and we're going to have to beat them.
Just like all warfare, let's stay focused on the mission. The mission is to get Donald J. Trump and a Republican Congress elected on November 5th, and then move forward from there. Everybody stay focused on that. Regardless of all the noise and other activities going on around us. And I think the president would even say that too. That's the most important thing that we should focus on. And in warfare, it is a kind of warfare. It is a form of warfare. Politics is, obviously. And that's why I chose the title. The first casualty is the truth in warfare. It always is. Wanted to get your thoughts on this Eisenhower attack story that was going around. Man, I had to pull my throttle back when I first saw it. I'm like, nope, I'm going to wait my required 24 hours before I say anything about the USS Eisenhower getting attacked and having poles blown in it, airplanes blowing up, and those kind of things. Says literally, that's what I saw being reported early on in this. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I think one of the concerns with the Eisenhower is it's been extended twice or three times. I can't remember which is correct here. It shows an undersized, under-equipped U.S. Navy, which used to be the vanguard of projecting American will and national agenda. We clearly have issues, and so God bless the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, then all the associated ships and resources put together, because that's supporting the Carrier Strike Group. That's a big effort with lots of service members and civilians in lots of different places around the world just to support this strike group. So, but good job on them. Yeah, I wasn't when I first heard this story, but again, the Yemenis have this Baghdad Bob-like guy that you just showed a few minutes ago. Totally untrustworthy, but they seem to think it's effective psychological operations. I don't think it is in any way, shape, or form. So as soon as the word came out from this guy saying it, it's like, I don't, and I'm not sure I'm going to buy that report from the excuse me, the Houthis. So yeah, but there, Rob, there you go. An appropriate change of background too. That was intentional.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I love John's backgrounds because he can change them at will, and he always brings something up that's relevant. Why are we still messing with this crowd? I mean, why don't we just, instead of these tit for tat kind of airstrikes and everything, why don't we just go in and just flatten the place, remove their ability to shoot these things?
Yeah. Flattening the place is not going to accomplish anything, and it's just going you're just still playing whack-a-mole. What this shows again is an undersized Navy. Is the resources are coming from Iran. Why are we not interdicting the resources coming from Iran? That just either do we not have the will, do we not have the capability? And I think it's a little bit of both. But I think the problem is we can run the Eisenhower Strike Group around as a target, but we can't spend the time to interdict the flow, which is mainly on small cargo ships, dhows in the right off the Gulf of Oman and places like that, coming from Iran. The source is Iran, so interdict the flow and maybe make an exemplar strike into Iran from the port these are coming from. But instead, we're just running the Eisenhower and others around as targets. Let's stop playing targets. Let's start addressing the causal factors, and that's where the flow of ordnance is coming from. It's Iran, no question about it. So
yeah, it's almost as if we just put the battle group out there and our associated allied ships that are helping out. We've got a few. Without a distinct objective and plan designed to stop this. Well, and we're trying to get the Israelis to do the same thing in their war with Hamas and Rafah, and we'll talk about that when we come back from this break, John, here on the Rob Maness Show with retired Colonel John Mills.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. Melissa House, BG.com.
A lot of people are having great success with a weight management program with Bella Trim, but it's just a tool. In terms of ingredients, Chromex or chromium picolinate improves the actions of insulin, so you have better glucose management, and in addition, it promotes fat utilization. Fat utilization or fat burning is also a feature of metabolite, which are two botanicals that stimulate a switch called AMP kinase, and so you tend to burn fat, reduce belly fat or visceral fat. Who doesn't want that? Metabolite has the ability to stimulate satiety or reduce those cravings. That's really very, very important. And it does that by raising GLP-1 levels. In addition, we've addressed the microbiome by using prebiotics. Healthier microbiome, better weight management.
Today, thousands of people turned out for the annual Israel Day parade here in New York City. Marchers chanted for the release of the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. There was increased security for the parade coming nearly 8 months after the surprise attack in Israel, with war raging in Gaza. We turn now to MTS Tayeb reporting tonight from Tel Aviv. MTS.
Good evening. Well, Hamas is under increasing pressure tonight to accept the Israeli truce agreement outlined by President Biden in his White House address last week, with Qatari, Egyptian, and American mediators now calling on both Israel and Hamas to finalize the agreement. Now, this is as Israeli forces pound Rafah in southern Gaza, killing at least 60 Palestinians over the last 24 hours across the Strip, according to Gaza health officials. And in a statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu insisted the war would continue until Hamas's military and governing capabilities were destroyed and that Gaza no longer, quote, poses a threat. Israel's three-stage offer would begin with a 6-week phase that would see Israeli forces withdraw from all populated areas of Gaza. It would see the release of a number of hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails, and lead to the eventual reconstruction of Gaza, which is now almost all in ruins. And today, Jerika, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that if Hamas agrees to the deal, the U.S. expects Israel to also accept the plan.
We shall see what happens. MTS Tayeb, thank you.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday here on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And my guest today is a longtime contributor to the show, retired U.S. Army Colonel and former senior DOD official, John Mills. John, that was a classic corporate media voice of the government reporting there. You know, they made that sound like Israel was in on this proposal that Joe Biden released over the weekend during the religious day, by the way, for the Israelis. So it got bought, as you said, he bought some time there. But Netanyahu's not having any of it because this thing requires him to pull out completely before getting any hostages and before they achieve their objective, which is still to eliminate Hamas as a governing body and a military force, right?
Well, yeah, I think part of the problem, and there's been hints of this over the last few months, the dweebs in the White House for the Biden team, they're looking at this like this is the IRA and the British in the 90s, and that they're just going to facilitate Hamas transitioning from a terrorist group into a political activity. This is not that. You're dealing with Hamas, who are it's not in their DNA. They're hardcore terrorists. It's a cult of death. They couldn't care less how many Palestinians die over this, as long as they're able to pocket all the proceeds and shakedowns they're getting from around the world, including the siphoning of UN funds. So it is not that. But you got staffers in the White House that are just obsessed that, hey, the same thing that between the IRA and the British that it was helped, we helped broker, that's the way forward. No, 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 no. That's not that at all. This is not that in any way, shape, or form. So Kirby and the Biden team are just so smarmy and mischievous that they'll send the proposal over on the holy day for the Jewish faith, and then just expect, we sent it to them. Therefore, this is the classic Obama Biden. Hey, we shared the results of the White House meeting. Haven't heard anything back. Obviously, they concur with everything we did, and same thing here. I've lived this so many times with Obama Biden staffers.
Don't these folks, you and I, when we were in uniform, especially, we do risk analysis before we make decisions. Surely they see the issue at the Rafah crossing with the Egyptian forces, and I think one might have even been killed on the Egyptian side of that the risk is really high of something happening that could completely escalate this thing out of control further across the Middle East. And this type of approach is just very untethered and untillered. I think I would use a nautical term. There's no rudder on this. It's like they just throw it out there, hoping that the Israelis will bite.
Well, and again, they want Hamas to be part of the solution, and that's just unacceptable in so many ways, especially when even right now, Hamas is listed as a terrorist group, even by the Biden team. Why in the world do they want and insist and hope for Hamas being part of the solution? They are designated terrorists. They have to be treated as such. They are not the IRA in Northern Ireland. This is really pathetic that the Biden team acts like this. It is unacceptable. And again, they are officially listed under U.S. law as a terrorist group. Hamas is. So why in the world would the Obama team be pushing for Hamas to be part of the solution? The position of the Israelis has been pretty clear, and I think it's reasonable. Hamas needs to be eliminated, not Palestinians controlling the Gaza Strip. Hamas needs to be eliminated. And I think that's a very reasonable, after October 7th, it's a very reasonable tenet. But the Biden team just seems to be obsessed with having Hamas be those at the table. That's insulting. The people are bloody murderers, and that does not make any sense at all. And there should be no romanticizing of who Hamas is in any way, shape, or form. But it shows the naivety of the Biden team.
Yeah, from a tactical combat perspective, John, as a soldier, this is primarily a ground operation with precision-guided weapon support from artillery, air, naval forces where they can reach them and everything. It seems like that the Israeli leadership would be impatient to get this operation complete sooner rather than later, because as we saw this week, they're having to do airstrikes in southern Lebanon because Hezbollah's getting what I would call froggy. They're continuing to have to do ground operations raids into the West Bank and everything. What do you think's driving that decision? Surely it's not the United States fecklessness and these kind of things, because I would want to get it over with. Why are they? They're not pausing, but they're really slow rolling this.
Well, I think in Rafah, the real, from what I can understand, the real ground action is in the southwest corner of the rectangle of Gaza, and near the Rafah gate. And the combat has been very bloody, and the Hamas has had years to prepare. There was just booby traps everywhere. So the Israelis have lost a lot of personnel, have been killed and maimed. So going slow here is actually not a bad thing for the Israeli ground forces. Now, they are also simultaneously interdicting every time they recognize a leader, they've been eliminating them in central Gaza and central North Gaza. They just, over the last few days, removed multiple more Hamas personalities. They were targeted, they were in vehicles, and they were eliminated. But that was all kind of remote action via drones. But in the south, where you have troops on the battlefront going door to door, going slow is not necessarily a bad thing, and they want to minimize their own casualties. Going fast in this into a well-prepared defensive enclave such as Rafah is, you want to go slow on these things. This is different. I mean, lightning fast assaults are good when you're dealing military to military, prepared fortifications. That's one thing. But this is very dense, urban, very well prepared, and you want to go slow to minimize your own friendly casualties. So that's a lot of the problem. I think there has been some rocket fire from the north from Hezbollah. Israelis immediately flattened where they felt were responsible for the launches of the rockets. I think Iran has been somewhat subdued with the humiliation, just decisive loss in their attempt to launch one of the largest international missile operations in history, which turned into a total fiasco for them. 350-0 is a pretty good score, and it looks like we were able to use creative means to disable and or destroy a lot of the launch facilities on the ground. So Iran has been going very slow because they've been pummeled. So they have Hezbollah fire a few rockets. They have the Houthis pretend that they hit the Eisenhower, but Iran's been a little going slow this themselves because they were decisively knocked out. It wasn't even close, 350-0 with the missile exchanges of April.
Yeah, it'd be great if we had some bomb damage assessment and analysis photographs of the launch facility targets and the damage level on that. We're going to have to do a show on a Training Tuesday sometime, John, with you teaching us about warfare in urban terrain. I think a lot of people forget that, or they think that this is a desert in Gaza, and it's vast, flat, and wide open spaces, but really it's some of the heaviest urban terrain, cities escape fighting that Western forces have done definitely since Fallujah, and maybe even since World War II. I mean, it's pretty dramatic, and it's hard to do. And that thanks for explaining that about going slow is better, less casualties, because I think a lot of us seem to think going faster is better, and it'd be better on casualty levels for the Israeli forces. Well, when we come back, I want to move over to Russia, Ukraine. There's been a lot going on over there. And I mentioned the U.S. saying that they can use our weapons on their Russian territory now, and that I think has changed the playing field over there and changed Russia's outlook on what's going on and how they think they're going to have to approach the West in this war. We'll be right back on the Rob Maness Show live on Worldview Tube and X Spaces simulcast with the retired Colonel John Mills.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66.
Also this hour, Russia rained missiles over Ukraine's Kharkiv region again on Saturday. As per Ukrainian prosecutors, the missiles struck residential areas, including very many residential buildings, which injured many. It's the latest in a series of Russia's attacks on Kharkiv. The attack on Friday night killed 3 and wounded 23 others. Russian strikes hit a hardware superstore in the city last weekend, killing 16 people. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is to address the Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore on Sunday, where he's expected to drum up support for his peace conference on the 15th and 16th of June. Over 160 countries have been sent or have sent an invite for the peace conference in Switzerland. Zelensky met with the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul on the sidelines on Saturday. They held talks on increasing international sanctions on Russia and supplying additional systems and missiles to strengthen Kyiv's air defense.
If we give you the right weapons, you can win this thing. You have the toughest team, soldiers, commanders on the ground. I have fought this administration hard to get the weapons in as fast as we can.
In the latest, China has pulled out from the list of attendees at the peace conference later this month. Beijing says that the conference does not meet its expectations, which include Moscow's participation, while Switzerland has not invited Russia. The Kremlin has said that it would not have participated anyway.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and man, we've had a lot to talk about in each of the potential either theaters of war or potential theaters of war so far this week. And our guest is a retired U.S. Army colonel and former senior DoD official and author, John Mills. John is the author of 2 books, The Nation Will Follow and The War Against the Deep State. John, I've been remiss. I haven't mentioned the books yet, and I try to do that at least a couple of times during the show, and we appreciate you being with us. Now, the Russians have been making noises and also actions, and these missile strikes and airstrikes are actually ramped up and hitting different target sets that they had been routinely hitting in this what I would call like a quasi-offensive that's been going on, where they've made enough territorial gains now where they're actually threatening Kharkiv in the east, the major city over there in the east. But these airstrikes, I think are significant because the U.S. has said that Kiev can use our weapons on Russian territory. Am I reading that right?
Well, with Ukraine, it has to be looked at. Russia would not be in the game at all if it wasn't for the support of China, North Korea, and Iran. I mean, it was Blinken who just a short time ago went to China to express his anger and outrage. Well, it was patently obvious China was, there's nobody else makes 152 millimeter ammunition in the world. Nobody except for China, Iran, and North Korea. So that's compatible with the Russian artillery pieces. So it's patently obvious there's only one place they're getting those from. And their usage is far outpacing their own production. So China is core and central to this. It sounds like the Russians have been making gains near Kharkiv. Now, that was also, they had to abandon that a while ago in the war when the Ukrainians made a surprise offensive and found that the Russians had essentially evacuated the whole area to reinforce further south like Kherson, and to blunt any attempt to move across the Dnieper River to the Crimea Peninsula. So now the Russians are coming back a bit. I would not overplay it too much. This has become a very bloody, I think, some forward movement by the Russians, but not a whole lot. But a lot of it has just become this deadly small drone war where they are using very small consumer-grade drones to essentially knock out anything that moves on the battlefield. Troops, artillery pieces, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles. This is almost, we're almost back to World War I warfare, because the defense now seems to have a lot of the advantage, because these drone troops can sit in very secure, protected areas and then fly their one-way drones right down the commander's hatch of a tank. And I think the Ukrainians withdrew their small number of M1 tanks because they didn't want them captured or destroyed. And I think some have been captured already. So it's really essentially still a stalemate. Some advances, but that doesn't seem to give strategic momentum to the Russians. Zelensky called this peace conference, but it's kind of hard to call it a peace conference where only one side is represented. And again, China is firmly the one behind Russia, supporting Russia. Russia would have collapsed by now if it wasn't for Chinese support. But the street theater of Blinken going to China and getting angry when it was patently obvious, well, I mean, come on, Blinken. If you knew that to be true, there's plenty of other things we could have been doing to make it. But I think a Wall Street Journal, this is all related, a Wall Street Journal article caught my attention about a week ago. And it says essentially there are two world economies right now, because we'll put in sanctions. But sanctions, you gotta continually upgrade them, improve them, adjust them. And the Biden team has not been good on sanctions. So what does that do? Russia, China, Iran, North Korea get creative, and they produce essentially a shadow economy. And that's what this Wall Street Journal article was identifying, was there are two world economies right now. Sanctions can be effective, but they lose their effectiveness if they're not routinely updated, upgraded, adjusted. And the Biden team is not good. They'll put in a sanction, and that's it. And what happens if the sanction company changes names? And they say, "Oh yeah, we get to that." Well, I've seen that. I know the bureaucracy of the entities list and all these things really well. Getting to it in a year later is not the agility we need to show if we want sanctions to be effective.
Yeah. Does the BRICS organization complicate that? Because it goes beyond just the five, what some people are calling the Axis nations that you named off there. The BRICS is about 40, I think now, which includes India. Does that complicate that issue for the West on the sanctions?
Well, it is concerning and something we should watch, but actually the formal, and actually that's part of the thing, BRICS is not really a formal organization. It's a very loosey-goosey organization. And even after the last conference, which was last year, it's kind of been par for the course, where they meet, they put out a memo, and then they don't do anything for several years until they get back together again. So BRICS has a little bit to do with this, but it's just the outside of the BRICS. It's the shadow economy. These nations, hey, we're going to sanction this company. They can't send oil to this country by this company from this country. They do it anyway, and it takes us months and years to catch up with them. That's not fast enough. Sanctions you have to adjust the sanctions much faster than months, years later.
Need some Trump-like business acumen to come into the government, I think, and thinkers. Another good reason to elect Donald Trump. And yeah, he says he can end this war in 24 hours. And, he is the only president that hasn't started a new war, and he did end the caliphate during his time in office and created the Abraham Accords and brought a lot of peace to the Middle East amongst the Arab countries and the Israelis. So you mentioned the drones, and I've been watching this, and we don't have any hands up in the live audience. They're so enthralled with you and I droning on here, so to speak, John. But the first-person view drones, FPVs, some of them are suicide, drones that are weapons that fly right into the target. Some of them actually drop little, I call them bombs, but they're like the equivalent of maybe a 40 millimeter high explosive or incendiary grenade. Some of them carry two, or big enough to carry two. It reminds me of watching old black and white movies, silent movies of cloth-covered biplanes with two guys in it and one guy dropping a bomb off the side of the airplane in World War I. You remember those films of military activity in World War I? But is it? Are you seeing any evidence that artificial intelligence, cloud networking is coming into play, or are they all individually operated? Everything I've seen so far looks like operated by individuals. But I was just wondering if anybody has seen artificial intelligence and cloud network capability to do massing of these drones, so they're not just operated by a single individual to each aircraft.
Well, good point. I think the answer is yes and no to your question. Because like the DJI, now one thing I've noticed is it appears to be the DJI drones are now back in the hands of the Ukrainians, which is a very interesting. Early in the war, Russia asked DJI, or a Chinese company, to turn off the network, which they did. But that's not happening, or in a number of recent videos I've seen, it appears that these are DJI drones. The Ukrainians received some blue UAS drones. That's a program by the U.S. government to help recreate trusted drones in America. But it sure looks like DJI drones, and the curious question, why haven't they been turned off? Now, I worked on a project. I have a little bit of familiarity with this, and the arming of the drones is on a one-way mission. Potentially the drones can carry 1, 2, or 3 handheld ordnance, 60 millimeter mortar rounds, and they can do this quite accurately. But I'll throw in this one thing when you talk about AI. DJI has this follow me feature, which is AI enabled. Normally implies you have network connectivity, which implies you're connected back to the big DJI data center in Guangzhou, China. But what I've noticed is several chase downs. I don't think those are pilots flying those drones. I think they're leveraging the follow me feature in DJI, because I've seen several times they've just horrifically chased down a Russian soldier and detonated. That is, I would suggest, because of the rapidity, the ability to track. I'm sure the Ukrainian pilots are good, but that really, to me, seems to indicate the follow me feature has been enabled, which is essentially an AI analytic tool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we do have a hand up in the audience. Let's take that before we go to the break and transition over to the China-Taiwan situation. AJ, go ahead with your question.
Thank you for the mic, Colonel and Shell. Colonel Mills, it's a pleasure, sir. 6 months ago, there was a statement given out by one of the closest people to Putin in regards to how Uzbekistan should be brought back in under Russian sphere of influence, and which sparked a huge outrage by Tashkent, and they were exchanging expletives. In 6 months now, as of this morning, it came across me that Moscow has signed an agreement with Tashkent that they're going to build 6 small nuclear reactors in Uzbekistan, and this this is expanding past Ukraine, which is the Western former Socialist Republic. Now they're going east, and where's this going, sir? Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, AJ. Yeah, I'm not an Uzbek expert, but Uzbekistan has been one of the kind of the mysterious southern semi-Asian, maybe not as much as Tajikistan, but it's been one of these provinces of the former Soviet Union that's always been very hermit-like, mysterious, and not well understood. I had to work with Uzbekistan right after 9/11 when we were trying to railhead a lot of equipment from Europe to the top end, because Uzbekistan touches Afghanistan. So again, a very hermit-like kingdom that is not well understood. Doesn't surprise me that they've been coerced by Putin. But Uzbekistan honestly is not well known in the world, is not well represented, and frankly doesn't have a whole lot of friends, period, when it comes. I mean, it's a little bit of a disappointment. It's maintained a totalitarian leader, I believe. I believe they're in the Shanghai Cooperative Organization, which is kind of this other counter NATO-like thing that China and Russia have put together, includes a number of the stand countries. So interesting on that, and thank you for bringing that up. Very few people bring up Uzbekistan issues, and it's a big, important country, but very mysterious and not well understood.
Yeah, that's very important. Great question, AJ. Thanks for answering that, John. We've got to take our last break. When we come back, I want to transition over to the China-Taiwan situation. There's been a lot going on the last couple of weeks over there, kind of more of the same, but bigger. So I want to get your take on that here on the Rob Maness Show Live. It's More War Monday, and we'll be right back on Worldview 2.
I'm excited to announce we're having a huge MyPillow spring sale, and here's a few examples. Buy one of our MyPillow 2.0s, you get another MyPillow 2.0 absolutely free. Made with cooling technology, the best pillow ever just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of our Percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98. And for the first time this year, I'm bringing you our My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your MyPillow 2.0s. Buy one, get one free. Percale sheets as low as $24.98. My Slippers and Sandals as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free.
China has launched military drills encircling Taiwan on May 23rd, calling it a punishment for what it calls separatist acts. This comes just days after Taiwan's newly elected president, Lai Ching-te, demanded China stop its intimidation of the self-governing island during his inauguration speech. The drills, which will last for 2 days, are the latest development in an ongoing dispute between the two sides. China's ruling Communist Party claims Taiwan as part of its territory and has said it will take the island by force if necessary. In response to the drills, Taiwan's presidential office said it was confident and capable of defending national security.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And our guest today is retired U.S. Army Colonel John Mills, author of The War Against the Deep State and The Nation Will Follow, 2 great books that you got to get them. And he's going to give the website out here before he leaves. But the promo code is Maness. That's my last name, yours truly. Well, John, as I said before the break, the latest play here by the Chinese vis-a-vis Taiwan appears to be the biggest war game we've seen to date since I've been watching it closely the last 3 years. I know you watch this area very, very closely and are very familiar with it. Am I correct in that assessment? I mean, a lot of open source reporting has essentially said the same thing. And then I guess the follow up would be, it is bigger. If it is bigger and more complex, what's been added?
Well, it's funny when you talk about the numerics, this actually, and I'm a little surprised, I think the number in the past has been 100 sorties per day. Okay. So I don't think the Chinese achieved that. But what is different was they essentially were able to demonstrate an ability on the sea and in the air to project a pervasive encirclement of Taiwan. I would say, so this was punishment. William Lai was inaugurated on the 20th of May. This was in reaction to that, and during the inauguration speech, he intentionally stayed away from the one China policy. I think the thing you actually have to watch is clearly the strategy is the Blue Party, KMT, which has a lot, did not have a majority in the legislative body, but they've got a majority because they've caucused with the a third party. The name's escaping me right now, which gives them a majority. Very disappointed that third party decided to go with the KMT, because they were always, and I was there during the election, they were very clear that they were not KMT like, but the corrupt opposition party in the legislative yuan has been able to pass laws that are clearly unconstitutional, but essentially allow the legislature to override the executive branch, the presidency, and the judicial branch, the court systems. So China is in some ways trying to get their way by creating a constitutional crisis inside of Taiwan. And it's very disappointing that the Kuomintang KMT party are active just at this point in time, just outright acting as agents of mainland China. This was Chiang Kai-shek's party, the person for years we looked at as a hero of anti-communism, who they've just become a corrupt toadies of the CCP. It's very disappointing, but that seems to be the real game is creating chaos in the legislative body, and there's been some pretty ugly fist fights, pushing, shoving in the legislative body, and there is essentially a constitutional crisis ongoing inside of Taiwan. I would hate to see it go toward martial law, but I'm beginning to wonder the legislative body just can't override the judicial and executive branch. But I think they're going to have to the DPP may have to make that's William Lai's the president, may have to just start making arrests. Clearly, they're the blue team, the KMT, is acting as provocateurs and agents of China.
Wow, it's interesting. I seem to remember some of that going on with the Hong Kong situation before they were able to take over Hong Kong. They worked through the legislative body to pass these laws and policies and things that enabled them to disrupt it. And that kind of gets me to my big question. I mean, we talk about it occasionally when you're on here about this, but we haven't in a while. Has your view changed as far as what you think China's big picture strategy is? I mean, I've never been totally convinced that they have 100% intention to go kinetic, but I still believe that they see an opportunity here this fall to late in the year to do that before Trump can get back in office, and that if that's going to happen, there's a strong likelihood it could happen there. But is that what they're really up to? Listening to you talk about all this,
I would say I'm leaning, and I had starting about a year ago. I'm saying the kinetic thing is definitely a possibility, but I think the demonstrating the encirclement, envelopment, and blockade of Taiwan, I think this is how they're going. The Chinese are they are very passive aggressive. They are not they shy away from open force. It's pretty. Their only open force was 1979 against Vietnam, and it ended very badly for the Chinese. I think that they are playing a game of asphyxiation internally and externally. I think that's really what is going on. I just don't think they're going to launch kinetic until they feel they've decisively disabled the DPP inside of Taiwan, and I don't think despite the chaos, I don't think they are there yet.
Do you think do we have an idea of how long they would have to be able to put up this envelopment of sea and air and then maintain it over time in order to achieve the objective of strangling them off enough to where they have enough pressure internally and through that methodology to get what they want?
Well, I mean, at the same time, to the south, they are conducting a very aggressive campaign against the Filipinos. I would say the envelopment encircle is not going to go final until they feel they've totally paralyzed Taiwan internally through the chaos in the legislature. I think now the real point of the spear for their malign campaign to topple Taiwan is really through the legislature. So I think that's the thing to watch. We're not getting a whole lot of reporting on that. I think that's actually the more important thing to watch, because the KMT is just shameless about creating and passing laws that are absolutely violate all of the principles, all the founding of Taiwan. And so I think that's what their highest priority is, creating absolute societal chaos inside of Taiwan through the dysfunctional behavior of their legislative yuan.
Well, complex operations, which is what we would have come to expect from the People's Liberation Army, Navy, and Air Forces. Well, John, thank you so much for coming out today. Where can folks find the book? And remember, it's promo code Maness, and we appreciate you coming on, sir.
Well, thank you, Rob. Yeah, go to my store, Lindell My Store. We've had a couple of commercials from Lindell. Go to my store to get the signed copies. Just use Maness and use that and get a nice discount on the bundle package of books. If you just want to get the books straight, just go to Amazon. But really encourage everybody to get signed copies.
Well, thanks, John. Have a great day, and we appreciate you so much and everything that you do. And he's got a show on Worldview Tube, The Situation Room, so you should check that out, too. And tomorrow is Training Tuesday. We've got former Trump administration national security strategist official Elbridge Colby, and he'll be training us on what a Trump administration America First national security and foreign policy should really look like, and it's going to be fascinating. He's done a lot of writing, very intelligent individual on this, and I can't wait to have this show. I'll see you tomorrow on Training Tuesday here at Worldview Tube.